Hello YouTube, GZTV here back with another video, and in this video we are going to be talking about the Season 2 opener of The Walking Dead, and what a way they opened this season. Days gone by. Yeah, this is a pretty good episode to say the least. It's one of the highlights of so far of the series. We're going to get through the plot and the reception. This should be like a 10-minute video. I gotta kind of get going on some homework here, but I'm still able to get a video out a day for you guys, so let's get into the plot. The episode opens in media res as former What the fuck? Why did I say Days Gone By? It's not called Days Gone By, sorry. I made a mistake. It's What Lies Ahead. I'm sorry. Oh my god. I'm gonna have to edit that when we get to the end of the video. So Rick Grimes leads the group of survivors from Atlanta towards Fort Benning following the destruction of the CDC. So obviously the CDC blows up in the season 1 finale, and he's kind of leading them towards Fort Benning because that was like one of their original destinations. And then he's like, well, let's go to the CDC because they might have some experts there, some people that can kind of insight us on what's going on. I'm gonna turn that down a little bit. I feel like it's a little too bright and it's getting in my eyes. So we are daytime. I don't really need a ring light. It's still 3:15 where I'm at, so you get the gist. So Rick attempts to contact Morgan Jones but cannot reach him, so he stops into Atlanta, which is very risky and kind of unrealistic how smoothly it was done. I don't know, they didn't really put any emphasis on that. So he's trying to contact Morgan. He's like, all right, Atlanta's a bust, CDC's a bust, so we're heading to Fort Benning. If you get this, meet us at Fort Benning. He wants to reunite with this guy. This is the first guy he met kind of in the apocalypse, the first survivor, the first beacon of hope almost. So along the highway, the group is forced to stop as a number of abandoned cars litter the road, making it impossible to pass. Further, Dale must stop to fix his RV, so they kind of have an excuse to stop anyway, like in the middle of the highway. You don't really want to stop in the open. I mean, they had camp kind of in a secluded place, and they still got attacked, but being out in this open was a really bad idea. They obviously had to. They couldn't really get by. There were cars everywhere. There was like a traffic jam during the apocalypse. So, yeah. As the others push cars out of the way and scavenge for supplies, a horde of walkers appear behind them. Worst case scenario, right? You stop in this unknown location, no landmarks nearby for salvation, and a bunch of walkers just start pulling up, and it's kind of insane. The group takes shelter under cars to avoid conflict, though in his haste, T-Dog severely cuts his arm, which is very unfortunate and very unlucky. Maybe he's, I don't know. This guy's clumsy. A lot of accidents happen with him throughout the series. I don't know. He's kind of an interesting fella. Why is this so bright? Bring it down a little bit. Shit. There we go. I don't know why it keeps brightening up. I keep putting it down and it keeps going back up. Maybe it's feeding off the light outside. I'm not sure if that's how that light works, but yep, it's doing it right now. I don't know what's happening. But yeah. Some walkers spot Sophia, daughter of Carol Pelletier, hiding under a car, and she flees into the nearby forest. This is very unfortunate because now the child's lives are at stake. It's kind of the first time we really see this, how it's affecting children and how they're very naive in nature and how they see a zombie that appears to be a threat, obviously, because of what they've been observing with the adults, what the adults have been doing when walkers come up to them. And so she just runs out of instinct. It's kind of a crazy survival instinct that someone as young as her can adopt in an apocalypse. So Rick follows her and tells her to find someplace safe to hide while he dispatches the walkers. Now, obviously, the fear in Sophia's eyes and expressions and stuff, it's no fun to see a kid go through that. This was a pretty sad episode, pretty sorrowful, and the twist at the end is it's probably the most disturbing and craziest twist that's happened in this series so far. Sorry, I'm rocking back and forth if that bothers any of you guys, but so the horde soon passes and the group returns to clearing the road while Rick and Daryl Dixon attempt to find Sophia. So Rick and Daryl are kind of sent, just them. Shane probably felt a little left out, and that's kind of a representation of what the group feels about him up at this point. They've kind of heard rumblings of him making advances on what's her name? What's the wife's name? Lori. making advances on her. Rick doesn't know it, but everyone else kind of knew before that they had a sexual relationship, and there's just this awkward thing that Lori's husband, Rick, obviously, which was assumed dead, is back with the group. So yeah, while Rick is gone, Shane Walsh tells Rick's wife Lori that he plans to leave the group on his own accord, saying that he's messed up, saying that he's made mistakes. He's a very regretful, very remorseful man. He's like, I need to leave this group before I damage it more than I already have. I can't really take back what I've done, so just take my apology, and I will be hitting the road. It's kind of sad, Shane isn't the most likable character. He does appear as a douche at some points in the show, but this is definitely a character you root for. It's not a guy that, eat him up immediately. I don't like him. He has a lot of good motives. He was Rick's longtime friend. Rick would vent to him in squad cars, and he would listen, and give him his insight. He's like a very young soul, it feels like. Shane has this, youthfulness to him that's kind of appreciated by a lot of the Walking Dead fans. So Rick and Daryl return unsuccessfully, and the group spends the night to resume the search the next day. Obviously, Carol is fucking, worried out of her damn mind. Her daughter is going to die to some infected human beings. I mean, that is not a good way to go out. Obviously, that's how everyone's going to go out from here on out. I mean, the end of the world is upon us here with this idea of an apocalypse, but it's a kid, you want her to live at least up to 40, 50 in a zombie apocalypse before something like that happens, I would say. So Carol berates Rick for losing Sophia. It's just one of those situations where the gender roles kind of come in. It's like the women can't do the job, so the men try to do the job. And when they don't do it, the women shame them, and it's a really hypocritical situation, and we're going to get that a lot. This show strives off of gender roles, and a lot of character development comes off of gender roles. And obviously, that's kind of seen as an immature concept today in television, because women can do what men stereotypically did back in the day, and vice versa. So it is kind of stupid, but back at the time, this was very culturally relevant. Anyways, so during the search, Andrea confronts Dale about her decision to stay at the CDC and wanting to die on her own terms, and his choice to stay with her took that chance away from her. That is kind of true. If you really think about it, Dale did take away her right to end her life peacefully. She wasn't going to let him die with her, and obviously she's going to be dead, but the burden's going to be on her. The group's going to think of her as this selfish individual if she would have had Dale die with her. But you know what I mean. So the group finds a small church and dispatches the few walkers inside. They hear a bell ring and they're like, oh my goodness, Sophia could possibly be in this little chapel. There's a couple of churches around the area. They're getting into these small town territories. They've left Atlanta. They've left the CDC. They're going to Fort Benning. And generally, military bases are in these secluded areas just so enemies can't get to them. But yeah, so as Carol prays for the return of her daughter, Andrea overhears Shane arguing with Lori about his leaving, and she tells him she wants to go with him. So she feels like she's a burden to the group. She feels like she's being selfish or whatever. And she's like, you know what, Shane, let's just leave together. Let's just form a group. We both have the same issues of a lot of things are held over the group's heads because of us, Rick, seeing the group starting to break apart, questions his leadership abilities and also prays for guidance. This church, it's this moment to kind of reflect on the apocalypse and talk about what have I done wrong, how can I change it, what can I do, God, begging for God. That's the point of religion. When you do something wrong, when things are going to crap, you always have the Lord, and that's kind of what they're using in this episode, So Rick, Shane, and Rick's son Carl go hunting for food and spot a deer nearby. Oh my goodness, this is one of the saddest things that has happened on this show. So as Carl goes up closer, a gunshot rings out. Carl finds he's been shot in the stomach, falling over to Rick's shock, and that's kind of where we're left in the air. Carl has been shot. This 10-year-old kid has been shot by a hunter trying to get a deer for, obviously, they're a group of survivors, I'd assume. What Lies Ahead was met with general acclaim. It was the series' best installment, I think, so far. It's thrilling, heart-wrenching. Paste gave it an 8.8 out of 10, very commendable. The casual atmosphere of the opening scene, the ending was daring. The episode got the second season off to a strong start. 8 out of 10 by IGN, seen as a great episode by a lot of people. The pace of this episode was sleeker than that of previous ones. This has the subtle but immediate effect of making The Walking Dead less predictable, more frightening. The episode was frighteningly good. The performances of Holden, Reedus, some of the show's stronger characters are being displayed to full effect in this episode. The special effects, the highway sequence was great. A sequence in which the humans hide under the wrecked cars in a freeway pileup, able to see only the feet of the flesh eater shuffling past. It's a classic nail biter that not a lot of shows execute like The Walking Dead. What Lies Ahead is a 3 out of 5 on Daily News. The Walking Dead may be under new management, but it seems to have kept its rhythm, moving easily between bursts of intense violence and long stretches of psychological sparring. It's 90 minutes of skill, bringing viewers back into the story without missing a beat, adding immediate depth to characters, ratcheting up suspense, plus expanding the emotional palette of the series. 3.5 out of 10 on US Weekly. The personal dynamics, the bloodthirstiness were equally good. Some people didn't like it, some people, the AV Club gave it a B+. The horror sequences in the episode were good. Some people said the character development was tepid. At the very least, the show does a fine job working within its restrictions. There are a handful of absolutely top-notch set pieces in What Lies Ahead, starting with an attack on the highway that seems to go on forever. It's an entertaining episode. Some people say the plot lacked a much-needed rush of energy. 3.5 out of 5 on the Tufts Daily. People don't say they got bored, but much of the episode left them unmoved and far less tense than they should have been. Fair, but I think this episode is very masterful. It is one of the better episodes that we've seen in Walking Dead so far, and the end alone really makes the episode. It's one of the most suspenseful, most unpredictable, most unorthodox things that the Walking Dead crew has created. I think it's really good. Well, as of now, obviously we have so much more content to get in with this series, and maybe I need to start watching it consistently. I'm not sure, but man, I don't really have much to say. I got some homework to tend to. Leave a like, comment, and subscribe. I'm sorry about Madden. We haven't been getting on that lately. Possibly Friday we will see an episode. I just need to keep making upgrades to my team so it can actually be a viable thing. Yeah, have a good rest of your guys' day. Leave a like, comment, and subscribe. As always, it has been Cheesy TV reviewing the best TV shows out there. I mean, Walking Dead is seen as iconic, so we had to revisit it for the channel. I'm out.